And I wanted to talk about lessons from the first family because in order to get a template for what the family ought to be, you go back to the first time the families that are mentioned in the Bible. And we looked at the first family. We looked at Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, and we saw the dysfunction in both the relationship between husband and wife and the result of it, and the dysfunction between siblings and the result of it. And so we really have been looking at these lessons that we can learn from the first family. And we see that when Eve stepped outside of her authority to do what it is God did not command her to do, we see the result of what happened. And then we see what happens when sibling rivalries start. When there's envy between siblings, we see how that ended up. And so I really wanted to look at that as a template of how God instituted the family. God instituted the family with a husband and wife and children. That is the template for family. That is the only definition of a family that is given in Scripture. Husband, wife, and children. And now I want to come to the New Testament because in this particular passage, in Ephesians, God is going to, through the Apostle Paul, give instructions for the family. We got last week lessons from the first family. We want to get instructions to the family or for the family. Now this is tough. Now you might as well put your big boy and big girl pants on this morning because this message is going to be, it is strong. It's tough because you're going to really get a sense of the role of each person in the family. And Paul is going to literally give us what the wife is supposed to be in the marriage, what the husband is supposed to be, and what the children are supposed to be. And he's really going to be detailed in his instructions about the role of each. Now, I was really studying this, and I was taken by how Paul did not start with the husband, but he started with the wife. If you read the text, you're going to discover that even though the husband is the head of the family, he was created first, given the instructions by God, and he shared it with his wife Eve. When it comes to giving instructions about the family, he's going to start with the responsibility of a wife. And it's very interesting, and I was curious of why the Apostle Paul started with giving the wife instructions before he gave the husband instructions. And so I really had to dig deep to really figure this thing out, because if you're going to give instructions about the structure of family, it ought to be in a traditional sense or in an original sense that you give instructions first to the husband, since he is the head of the family. And it looked like in the text, Paul would start out by instructing the husband instead of starting out instructing the wife. And so my biblical and intellectual curiosity got struck. And so I wanted to really dive into that. Why give instructions to the wife of what she ought to be, and then instructions to the husband what he ought to be, and then instructions to the children what they ought to be. Because he's going to give and lay out these instructions very plainly. And he's going to start out by saying, wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. Now it doesn't seem in order that you want to first speak to the husband if he is the head, but Paul does it, he speaks to the wife. And he speaks to the wife, and I really didn't get any answers of why he did, but there are some theologians that speculated why he did. He talks about, in this particular text, wives, submit to your husbands. Now, I don't care what you say, this is what the Bible says. I don't care how contemporary things are. I don't care if you're a boss chick. The Bible gives you instructions. I don't care if you're an independent woman. I don't care if you make your own money. I don't care if you big balling and shot calling. The Bible says, submit to your husband. Now let me give this to you, my brothers and sisters. I don't care how much influence you have in your job or in society. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much clout you got. When it comes to the marriage, you are to submit to your husband. It doesn't mean that you ought to be a fool, but it does mean you are to submit. It doesn't mean that you're weaker because you submit. You submit because the Bible says you are to submit. What are you to submit to? You are to submit to his leadership of the family. He is to give the temperature and the template of how the family is going to be led. And so you are to submit to his leadership. And I really want to get into that because Paul is going to really give some instructions to these particular groups. Wives, submit to your husbands, for as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. And so the church is subject to Christ, and so wives are to be subject or to submit to their husbands in everything. Now, I really don't want to put too much into this particular text. Now, you follow your husband as long as he's following Christ. And as he is submitting himself to Christ, you submit yourself to him. Now, I really need to explain that to you because TJ, one day you might want to get married. Your wife is supposed to submit herself to you as you submit yourself to Christ. Now, if you're not submitting yourself to Christ, there is a conflict because there is somebody over you. You are under the lordship of Jesus Christ. Now, how do you expect a woman to submit to you and you don't submit to the lordship of Jesus Christ? First of all, you don't come to church. Secondly, you don't live according to the word of God. And you don't live under the lordship of Jesus Christ. Now, she is to submit to you as you submit to the Lord Jesus Christ. In other words, if Jesus can't tell you nothing, how you going to tell her something? You don't obey anything Jesus said, but you want her to obey everything you say. You want her to submit to you, but you won't submit to the lordship of Jesus Christ. In other words, you don't want to be under Jesus, but you want her to be under you. That's not what Paul said. He said, as the man submits to the lordship of Jesus Christ, she sees what submission is like because you submit to Jesus, so therefore she don't have any problem submitting to you. And in order for you to submit yourself to Jesus Christ, you got to humble yourself. You got to do what you're supposed to do in order to be under the lordship of Jesus Christ, but you want her to submit to you and you won't even humble yourself to do what Jesus told you to do. You want to be a leader at home, but you won't be a follower at church. You won't submit to the Lord Jesus Christ. You won't submit to the pastor. Can't nobody tell you nothing, but you want to tell her to do something. Now, that's not the kind of submission that he's talking about. Your wife submits to you as she sees you humbly submitting to the authorities that you're under, and she will submit to. And so if you're having trouble at home getting your wife to submit, the problem might be she ain't seeing you submitting to nobody. You the king, you the alpha male, you the big dog. And can't nobody tell you nothing, but you want to try to get her to follow and submit to you. He says, I'm trying to explain to you. If you're having trouble getting your wife to submit, it might be that she doesn't see you submitting to anybody, anything, anywhere. You are under the lordship of Jesus Christ, and you're under the authority of the pastor if you are a Christian that attends a church. And when she sees you under the authority of Jesus Christ, being submissive to the word of God and under the leadership of somebody else, when she sees you being humble, she can be humble and submit. So he says, submit. Because she sees a great example of what it means to be submissive. And be under the authority of the lordship of Jesus Christ. Now, if you're a man that can't nobody tell you what to do, I guarantee your wife ain't submitting to you. Can't nobody tell you nothing. You the king. You the big dog. Don't nobody tell you what to do. You don't submit to anybody. And you wonder why she won't submit to you. So wives, submit to your husband in everything. Now I need to kind of stop and pause and explain to you. It doesn't mean that you let him lead y'all off a cliff. If he's ignorant, if he's arrogant, don't let him lead you off of a cliff. Now that ain't what submission is. Now you know the direction y'all going is going to take y'all off of a cliff or get y'all in trouble with God. You don't let him lead you that far. At some point, you don't let him lead you off of a cliff. If that fool said, baby, get in the car, I'm finna go drive us off of a bridge, and you get in that car, you stupid. You ain't, listen, submission goes only so far. As long as he's taking you in a positive way, if he's leading you right, it doesn't mean you let him lead you off of a cliff. And so Paul starts with, wives, submit to your husbands. And then, and really, he then gives, TJ, you might want to get married one day, so I need to explain this to you. Yeah. He also says this. He gives you the kind of woman to be looking for if you're looking for wife material. Right. Because if she can't submit, she probably ain't good wife material. Yeah. A woman who won't submit to a man, and she's a boss chick, independent, strong, and got her own money, and she don't need nobody, you probably don't need to even consider her as wife material. Because listen, when we get married, I don't care what you got, it comes under my authority as a leader. It doesn't make any difference. You don't have anything, it's us, it's ours. And let me tell you, a lot of conflict in marriages, and people can't get together of the opposite sex who want to get married or who want to date, simply because people let material things keep them from submitting. Women can have so much clout. You know, more women are receiving their master's degrees. More women are entrepreneurs more than ever in history of America. But there are more single women than there's ever been. You got success, you got money, you got clout. You can go to the Bahamas, you can go to Mexico, you can do whatever you want to do. But you have to do it with your girlfriend. And TJ, if she's not willing to submit, she can bring whatever she wants to the table, but at the end of the day, biblical marriage is she submits. And listen, that's a good indication. If she wifey material, is she willing to submit? In other words, if you can't tell her no, and every time you say no, she got, and she throw up in your face, I got money. This is my money. That's a red flag. Hit the road, Jack, and don't come back no more. No more, no more. If she always throwing up in your face her money, her job, her career, her occupation, her success, her clout, you ain't got a woman that will ever submit. And what look good on the outside, and when you take it home, you're going to discover. If you marry a woman making $100,000 and you making 60, you don't let her make you have a lifestyle on $100,000 because she ain't supposed to pay the bills. You're supposed to pay the bills. You create a lifestyle on $68,000 because see, you fool around here and let her, and she get mad and quit giving you money. You stuck. You build that life on your income because you are supposed to pay the bill. And she make all that money it don't matter when it comes to financial household matters. Because you ain't going to live off of $160,000. You're going to live off what you can pay. Do I have any witnesses? I ain't want to get too deep, so I'm going to dive out of that hole. But I'm telling you, he says that because you need to find a woman who's going to be submissive. Yeah. But then he has, husbands, love your wife. Yeah. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's just so much in this particular text, I could preach this for 3 days. Because it does not say husbands have authority over your wife. It doesn't say husbands tell your wife what to do. It doesn't say husbands lord over your wife. He says husbands. But see, you ain't done that in 20 years. When was the last time you told the woman you married to that you go to sleep with every night, wake up with every morning, that you love her? Yeah. It says husbands love your wife. The number one job of your husband is to love you. Now, you know, if you look at Peter, he says to the pastors to feed the flock. He doesn't even say that in this particular text, because the primary responsibility of a husband is to love your wife. Your wife needs to know that she is loved. But not only that she is loved, but that you are in love with her. Love your wife. Do like Butch, sit by her every Sunday. Be so close to her that air light won't get between you. Because he up beside that woman every Sunday. And whenever you see them, they together like glue. That's what it means to love your wife. All right. Love your wife is the kind of, when they made cars and they didn't have anything between the passenger seat and the driver's seat, and she'd be scooted all the way over there in the middle of the car. I'm gonna give you some biblical advice. Your number one responsibility is to be a provider, is to be a priest, and to be a protector. But she needs to know above everything else that you love her, that you genuinely love her. And boy, he gonna get so detailed about what love really means, and he gonna compare the love that a husband's supposed to have to his wife to the love Christ had for his church. Now, I need to ask you this question. And if you can't answer yeah, I want you to get up from where you sit right now and go sit by your wife and tell her, baby, I love you. The question I want to ask you, does your wife know that you love her? Does she know that you are in love with her? I mean, it's one thing to love her. It's another thing to be in love with her. Boy, I tell you, chilling in this church congregation, I can't get real detail like it. But listen, when you see her, does something come all over you? She walk in front of the TV. Will you stop watching TV? Does the way she move, the way she walk, does it do something to you? I'm talking about you gotta love her, but you also gotta be in love with her. Something about you got to move. He says, love your wife, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her, that he may sanctify, cleanse, wash her by the word. In other words, the word sanctify and to cleanse, and the word sanctify means separated. The separated, he separated, he sanctified. The church was special to Jesus Christ. Does your wife know that that she's special to you? I'm telling you, I don't care how many rooms where women are that you and her go, you need to make her know she the only woman in the room for you. I mean, you got to make her feel special. What's wrong with you, you silly clown? You done looked at every woman in the room, and you done complimented every woman in the room, and you left home with your wife, and you ain't told her one time her hair look good, her clothes look good, but you get in the room with other women, you complimenting and looking at every woman, you can't even eat your food from looking up. I'm talking about you separate, you sanctify, which literally means to set her apart and make her feel like she's the apple of your eye. I don't care how many other women come in the room, ain't nobody as special as her. If she right, you didn't hug her like that when you... But all of a sudden, you all hugging everybody. Every woman come in the room. When the last time you hug her like that? And then you so silly, you sitting at a table with women, and a woman say, I need something to drink. You jump up with your silly tail, and your wife ain't even got a cup. Running to get her some water. What's wrong with you? You let that woman suffer from thirst before you. You don't do that in the presence of your wife. You sanctify. Set her apart and make her think she is special. All right, now. Yeah, you're right. Get in the car on your way home. Talking about what another woman had on. Your wife squeezed in the dress she had. And you ain't said a word. If she squeezed in it, tell her, baby, you look good squeezing in that dress. Sanctified. And Jesus Christ cleansed her. In other words, he did what he needed to do to make her look good to himself. And see, that's the problem that most men have. You make an investment in everything else, in yourself and everybody else, but how much time are you spending with your wife to cleanse her, to make her what you want? You got to spend some time. You got to make some investments. You can't talk about her weight and you won't go walking with her. Go get a gym membership. And listen, you got to do something. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's all right. Do like Clyde. Walk with your wife every day. Get up. Go to the track with her. Don't send her nowhere. You go. Keep cleansed. Jesus made an investment for the church to be what he wanted it to be. And you're supposed to do the same thing as a husband. Instead of complaining about her looks and how she is, you do something. If you want her to be nicer, you be nicer too. You want her to be kinder and sweeter, more loving, you be more sweeter. And more. Amen. Help somebody. That he might present the church to himself without spots and wrinkles. In other words, he made an investment because he didn't like what he saw when he looked at the believers, the church. And so Jesus Christ, he cleansed it with his own blood, made a sacrifice to help it to be what he wanted it to be. That's what a husband is supposed to be. You want your wife to be anything. You're supposed to help her to be what you want her to be. If she ain't what she ought to be, you make the investment, spend the time and the money. Now, instead of putting monies in motorcycles and cars and trying to fix up the backyard, take some of that money and fix her. I mean, you keep complaining about how she don't look, her hair ain't never fixed. And talk about how she look, give her some beauty shop and pedicure and nail money. And let her go to the spa. If she always upset and angry, go send her to Columbus to the spa, let her get a massage, release some of that tension, come home, she'll be better. You want to spend money everywhere? And then you dress to the dime. You talking about how her dress look? Go buy a new dress. Your hair cut and fixed and crisp, and you ain't want to listen. I'm just trying to help somebody this morning. Jesus made an investment. He cleansed it because he wanted it to be spotless without any blemishes, and so he was willing to sacrifice himself for the good of the church. And husband, you supposed to do the same thing. So a husband ought to, and listen, we don't want to talk about verse 28, because you need to do this. Listen, the husband, he ought to love his wife like he loves his own body. Now, if you treated your wife like you treat your body, your wife will be treated better than what you're treating her right now. Because listen, I tell you what, you cleaned your body this morning when you woke up. You fed your body when you woke up this morning. You groomed your body when you woke up this morning. And you made sure your body got here safe. And he said you ought to love your wife like you love your own. And you wouldn't mistreat, you wouldn't abuse your own body, so don't do that to your wife. Is it not right there in the text? So a husband ought to love his wife as he loves his own body. And as he loves himself. For no person hates their own flesh, but they nourish it and cherish it. I need to stop parenthetically there and pause and explain to you that you're supposed to nourish and cherish. And I don't have time to really get into that. But see, when is the last time you nourished your wife? You know what to nourish means. It's the same word as to cultivate and to care for plants. And you know what you're supposed to do for plants. You're supposed to make sure grass don't grow up and take over. And you're supposed to water and weed so that the weeds don't take over. And you water when you see that the plant is thirsty from the lack of water. You give it what it needs so that it can grow and produce what it is that is beneficial to you. And so you got to spend some time nourishing your wife. You got to spend some time making sure that the weeds don't grow up, that she don't become so overwhelmed by the cares of this world, that bills are not overwhelming her, that all kinds of issues within the family unit is not overwhelming her. You got to make sure that the children are not overwhelming her. Bunch protector. Tell the children you ain't going to be calling your mama all times of the night. You ain't going to be stressing her out. She might be your mama, but she my wife. And at the end of the day, we go to sleep together. You can't let them crazy children of yours. You got to protect them. When she can't say no, you got to say no. Cause she loves them. She got that maternal love, and they'll break them. Every time they call, she answering the phone. And every time they call and ask for something going out of your house into. That's why you got to monitor that stuff. Who you talking to? You know how baby girl call what she want. You know her light bill due and she ain't got no money. She asked me for some money. Tell her no. I'm just telling you, you got to nourish to make sure the weeds don't grow up and overwhelm her. You got to make sure that she's watered. Because women can get exhausted from being your husband. From being your wife. You know, it's hard being married to you. We just go to church with you and we exhausted. She live with you 24 hours a day, 7 days of the week. We just have to deal with you in a social setting, at work, at church, in a club, in a fraternity, in some kind of organization, and you exhaust us. Imagine how dry that she feels. You got to make sure you water, keep some water on her. Yeah. So she don't dry up. You know she dried up when you come home and ain't no food cooked. You know she dried up when you come in the house, she get up and go in the other room. She dried up. You know she dried up and you called, and about after the 6th call, she finally answered the phone and said, what? She don't say, honey, how you doing? What you want? Because she dried up. I'm going to tell you how you keep her watered. You want to know how you keep her watered? Listen, date her. Even though you're married to her 28 years, get a date night. That's how you water. And when you get a date night, make sure you send some flowers early in the daytime. And then while you're sending the flowers, flirt with her, anticipating a date. And then when you go out on the date that night, take them sweats off, put some dress shoes on and a dress pants and dress up and clean up and smell up. You smell up going to work. And all you do is work on the factory line. Can't beat you getting up in the morning, ironing your clothes, smelling up, and making sure you clean. But going on a date, you got sweatpants and tennis shoes. Date your wife. Send her flowers. Compliment and flirt with her. Now, I know this is a G audience, but let me explain this to you, and I'm going to give it to you in the G way. Some of the best advice I can tell you, how a woman day go going to determine how a night goes. Do I need to say that again? How a woman day go going to determine how your night goes. If she have a good day and you flirt with her, send her flowers, date her, you will have a good night, fella. That's all I'm going to say. Because you watering. You're nourishing. You're making her feel good about herself. She knows that you love her, and she knows you are in love with her. Boy, if this was just a marriage class, I could teach some of y'all fellas something, because y'all, I'm trying to explain to you, you're missing the mark. You nourish her, but then you cherish her. Man, I tell you, that's a unique word, because cherish is to be held in a special place. To be held special. You know, anything that you cherish, you protect it. And some things just can't happen to anything that you cherish. I'm going to say this, and I'm almost finished, because I'm just teaching, because I'm explaining to you. When you cherish your wife, there's some people that ain't going to be able to say certain things to her. I don't care if it's her mama, your children, your grandchildren. There's some things they just ain't going to be able to say to somebody you'll tell your mama, look here, mama, you better go back to your house. This my wife. And ain't nobody gonna talk to my wife like that but me, and I don't talk to her like that. Ain't the truth what I'm saying? And I'm telling y'all, some of y'all really need to get control of your children. Because your children keep disrespecting your wife, your daughters, and your sons. Your grandchildren should not disrespect your wife. Some things you just ain't gonna say to my wife. She my mama. Boy, I'm telling you, you cherish her. You protect her. Anything you cherish, you just don't. And then I can tell you this, let me go on and throw this in here. I'm going because I know y'all ain't listening, but that's all right. Something you cherish, you just don't let it go any and everywhere by itself. You get up and go with it. That's how she know you ain't in love with her. You just give her, let her go anyway. Helping somebody. just as Christ does the church. We are members of his body, and of his flesh and of his bone. Verse 31, boy, I love that the commentator gave me this insight about verse 31. Verse 31 was spoken by God in Genesis, or by Adam in Genesis, and that was about the span between that was about 2,000 or 3,000 years between the first time this was spoken and now it's spoken by the Apostle Paul. And one of the commentators wanted me to tell you that what God said then was still relevant now. It says, for a man leaves his father and mother and joins to his wife, and they two become one flesh. Now that was spoken in Genesis, and it has endured over the years. It's immutable. What God said then, God means now. And from the Old Testament to the New Testament, that has not changed. I don't want to get too deep into that. But to leave father and mother. Now listen, this is what one commentator wanted me to tell you. It means that you leave the dependent relationship that you have with mother and father and create an independent relationship from mother and father. And if you ain't really ready to become independent from being dependent, you don't need to get married. Because if you can't take care of the person you marry, and you might need to hold off on. Can I give you what a Jewish man would do when he proposed to a woman? First of all, he would have to pay a dowry to the father. So the daddy wanted to know whether he had money to take care of the daughter. He wanted to make sure that the man could take care, he had the means to take care of his daughter, and so he would require a dowry to be paid for his daughter, and the purpose of it was to demonstrate that he had financial means to take care of his father, and what they would do in that tradition, and then he would go home and build this add-on addition to his father's house. And many scholars believe it would be an addition, or it would be a house on the estate of his father, so that he could prepare to have somewhere for his bride to live. I mean, listen, you moved into her house, you man, if any man get married and move into a woman's house that's in her name, you done lost your mind. Because listen, you ain't putting me out when you get mad at me. You mean to tell me I'm going to move in with you and it ain't in my name? The first job is to demonstrate financial ability to take care of a woman, and secondly, you go and build on. When he says, in my father's house there are many mansions, I go and prepare one for you. He says, I'm going to my father's place and I'm going to build a place, house there for you. Same concept. Man, I'm telling you something. Get mad, she get mad at you, you start raising your voice. She said, wait a minute. You need to look at the mail and see who name on that mail and see who named them bills in. I'm just saying, you're supposed to provide financial means, and he says, for this is a great mystery. It is a great mystery how they two become one flesh. I can't even explain how two become one flesh. It talks about the unity of marriage. This one flesh thing, the unity of marriage. I mean, the unity of marriage is you move in perpetual motion together. You are so in sync in the way you think, and that takes time, that takes testing, that takes trials, and you get to know each other. You two become one flesh, and really, but you speak with one voice. That's what it means. You speak with one voice. I mean, mama would never say nothing. I know some husbands call their wife mama. That's why I'm using the word mama. When mama would never, I remember I called Butch's wife and tried to get her to do something. She said, I got to ask Butch first. Because see, I want to speak in one voice, and then he speak in another voice. We speak with one voice. And let me check with him first. And preacher, I appreciate you calling me, but I got to talk to Butch first. See, that's one flesh. That's what it means. He says a mystery, but we do know the concept of speaking with one voice. Because with one voice, there is unity. In one voice, there is strength. In one voice, there is solidarity. Now let me go on into chapter 6, and I got to deal with this, and I've got about a couple of minutes, but I got to explain about these bad children. Because if you want to know what's disrupting the family today, it's not so much the husband and wife. They got pretty good relationship. But it's what you let these children do and how these children have disrupted and is tearing up families. Let me give you this. The most important relationship you have is between your wife and you. Not your children and you. Not you and your wife and her children. It's between you and your wife. And so he says, children, obey your parents. For this is right. Boy, don't make, I gotta really calm down. Children, obey. I mean, that ain't, listen, this is not up for discussion. If you live in my house, you live according to my rules. It's what Judge Judy says, my word is law. There is no negotiation, discussion, or debate. What I say, go. And you got to start at an early age. And listen, let me give you this. There is a time when you can raise children. There is a time you start, but then there's a time when it's supposed to end. And what we have done in modern society, we start, but we don't know when to end. Children, obey your parents. For this is right. I mean, that ain't that shit. I can't even fix that. Just obey. That little girl sitting in your lap. Listen, your word is law. You don't care how she feels. You don't care what she thinks. Because what she thinks and how she feels has nothing to do with your parenting decisions. And see, you let kids negotiate with you, telling you how they feel and what they think. What does that have to do with what you say in your? That's right. Well, y'all done got quiet because I know what the problem is now. I don't feel like getting up and taking the garbage. What? What you say? I don't feel like it. And then I don't think I should have to. What does that got to do with anything? What you think you shouldn't have to do. You don't have a choice. This is not up for negotiation, debate, or discussion. I told you to get up. And I promise I ain't going to say it again. You're right, preacher. Calm down. I'm trying to calm down now. Usa. And we have really ruined children. They are privileged and they feel entitled. They feel like you owe them something. They feel like that you're supposed to parent them for the rest of their lives. But there is a time when you're supposed to cut them off. I give this in Bible study, since y'all don't come to Bible study. We was teaching the Bible study, and I'm almost finished, but I got to teach this point. Let me tell you the thing about the prodigal son in Luke's gospel. Luke tells a story about the prodigal son who came to his father and said, Father, give me the portion of goods that are owed to me. And his father gave it to him. And then when the boy left home, guess what the father didn't do? Didn't chase after him. And he didn't go looking for him. His father lived his life. He literally wanted the boy to come home because he went out looking for him in the distant horizon every day. But if he made a decision, he made a choice, he let him go. He didn't go looking for him. He didn't try to stop him because he was at an age, your choices have consequences. You want to be grown? There's some grown consequences that come with being. My daughter in Atlanta, who works for Google, texted me a couple months ago and said, Daddy, I don't want to be grown no more. I bet you don't. Because now all the bills come in your name. Now whether the lights stay on is up to you. Whether your car is repossessed is in your. With big obey your parents. I'm telling you, we live in a society where we worried about kids' feelings and about what they think. Now, see, I got old school folk over here, except this boy here. Now, did any of y'all mom and daddy sitting over in this corner worry about how y'all feel and what y'all thought? Now, how many of y'all, I believe you, but I'm going to test you on what you just said. Now, did your mama do like my mama did when she cooked something? It wasn't what you wanted to eat, it's what you had to eat. And if you didn't eat it, you sit at the table, it looked at you and you looked at it. And eventually, before nightfall, you're going to eat what's on that plate. And it wasn't about what you wanted to eat, it was what you were going. Ain't the truth what I'm saying? And then listen, school shopping wasn't like this modern school shopping, TJ. Kids going to pick out what they want. Forget that stuff. We went to Fred Dollar store, got the shoes with the gray bottom, the 4 stripes, and whatever was in Fred Dollar store, that's what we wore to school. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. And listen, we got clothes that were always too big. That's why we had hems in the back, hems at the bottom. And mama bought her extra soles because she bought the shoes too big, so she needed to buy 2 or 3 so your foot wouldn't slide out. And listen, let me tell you about hand-me-downs. Y'all know what hand-me-downs is, don't you? I'm talking about when parents didn't care what you thought or how you felt. And obeying wasn't even an option. Let me give you this. I got to close. It talks about honor your father and mother. Now, this is the Old Testament in Exodus and the 10 Commandments, but it has endured over time. And now Paul in the New Testament is repeating what was said back then, and that principle has withstood the test of time. And let me give you the 2 times you honor your parents. You honor them when you're young and when they get old. Yeah, you're right. Miss Jefferson, you shouldn't have to worry about a car, clothes, or food. Because your older years should be your better years. If your car tear up, all you need is 1 phone call. But if he call you and do something for you, he got to make sure he check with mama first. And I ain't talking about the mama that birthed him. I'm talking about the mama that he sleep with every night. But our parents at certain age ought to get from us and not to have to give to us. Honor your parents. They get you to a point, and then you carry them the rest of the way. You honor them when you're young and when they get old. Boy, a woman almost made me drive the New Albany and whoop her one time, but she told the truth, but I sure didn't want to hear it. My mom was living somewhere, wasn't paying her rent, and the woman put her out. And I was snapping on the woman for put her out. And the woman said to me, your mama, you should be more worried about whether she got somewhere to live. And it hurt my feeling. I wanted to go jump on that woman until I had a light bulb moment. She sure was right. And sometimes the truth hurt. You want her rent caught up, you come pay. Your mama, she ain't mine, she my tenant. Well, I wanted to go throw paws on that woman. But she told the truth. See your mama. That's when you honor them, when you young and when they get old. And then he says this, and I'm telling you, this is the only commandment of God that comes with a promise, that you may live well with you, and you may live long on the earth. Now I'm going to tell you this, and this ain't nothing about that you're going to live longer than you ought to live, but it's talking about the quality of life and the quantity of life. You sleep better when you treat your mama and them right. Don't you sleep better? You don't have to worry when mama is, daddy is all right. When you're doing what's right by them, you don't have to worry. You ain't stressed out when you do right by mama and daddy. And I can tell you how you know you did right by mama and daddy. Just wait till they die and come to the funeral. You'll figure out the children who did right and the children who did do right. We got to have 5 ushers with them, 5 bags of handkerchiefs. And we got to drag them in. And they fall out at the cemetery. And because they ain't done nothing for mama. But now they want everybody to think. People who did, the children who did right, they know what they did for mama. They know mama gone. Yeah, they hurt, they cry. But they go on and stand there with dignity and wipe their tears. Mama, I'm gonna miss you, but I'll see you again. They pretty calm. But them children that don't honor their parents, boy, they cut up. Mama in the hospital, they run up there like they've been taking care of her all the time. Mama ain't seen them in 6 months. And they run up at the hospital like they've been there. And boy, they just climbing after food. Just embarrassed you up at the hospital. And they ain't came to see mama, but the first time she gets sick, they up there. Between the tears, they fake cry. They stop and say, mama gonna die. Who gonna get her car? I'm being comedic, but I'm telling you, that's how you know. Because what you gonna argue over mom and daddy stuff up? You got your own stuff. And let me give you this, and then I'm closing. And fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath. And the word father here is plural because it means mothers and fathers. Don't provoke your children to wrath. And this simply means this. Don't make your children grow up in a resentful house, an angry house, a house with a lot of trouble. Boy, I'm finna say something. Because some of y'all finna hear an explanation why your children act silly and why they are the way they are is because of what they grew up in and what they saw growing up in the house they grew up in. Now that's why some of your children didn't come out all together right. Because you provoked them to wrath. They didn't know a woman could be treated so bad. They didn't know you holler and scream at your wife. You make them angry. You break that girl's spirit. I was reading an article the other week. The reason why so many women are attracted to psychopaths is because they grew up in dysfunctional homes without fathers, and they see their mothers being abused and misused by crazy men. And that's the reason why women are attracted to psychopaths. He don't work, he ain't got no job, he in the streets, he don't have any potential, don't have any drive, don't have anything. It's because the home she grew up in. And you better be careful because listen, I tell you, I got to give you some transparency. One of my daughters one day came to me, and I told you this before, and it broke my heart. She said to me, TJ, Daddy, I want a man just like you. And I said to myself, oh Lord, what kind of man am I? What is she really saying? Do I want my daughter to have a man just like me? Wait a minute, I ain't the only one need to ask that question. Would you want your daughter to marry the kind of man you are to the wife you married to? Well, I bet it got quiet in here now. You can hear a pin drop. Do you want your daughter to be married to the kind of man you are to the wife that you married to? I'm better now. Now they probably could marry the man that I am now, not the man at that time. Right. Don't provoke them. Don't make your children grow up with all this. You want to know what the problem is in society among our children? It's because of the influence they have growing up. It affects them deeply. And I don't have time, but I'd explain to you if I had time how divorce and dysfunctional families affect girls and boys differently. Boys are affected by the dysfunction of family life. You screaming and hollering at your wife, and you berating your husband and calling him all kind of adjectives. You don't think that's going to affect him? Some things you shouldn't say around your children. As a personal conviction, I don't let my children downgrade the mother of my children. They can't come to me and say nothing negative about their mothers, period. Because at the end of the day, she's still yours. I don't care how me and her go at it, the conflict we have, she's your mother. You are to honor her. Fathers, don't provoke your children to be hateful, angry, mad, resentful, weak, and vulnerable. Would you want your daughter to be married to the man you are today? That's the question. Would you want your son to treat a woman the way you treat your wife? Or would you want a young man to treat your daughter the way you treat your wife? Jesus died on Calvary to save a wretch like you and I, every head bowed and every eye closed. I'm talking about biblical instructions for the family. Because I'm going to tell you, Jesus loved the church, gave himself, was willing to invest his own death and shed his own blood to save his church, to wash his church, to cleanse it, to make it spotless. Husbands, you ought to love your wives as Christ loved the church.